They like to release big news on Fridays right before the weekend because they know people are distracted. I 100% believe that. We have two major things, this article and the next one. 20 million users are now one tap away from being able to utilize XRP or acquire XRP in Japan. It's very interesting. I was just speaking recently about, and I was saying, keep your eyes on Japan. There's so much happening. All of these major countries need the new financial system. They're going to need to swap majorly. Just take a look at what's going on with them in their financial ecosystems. They're all on the verge of collapse or major problems. And that's why there's so much pressure on traditional financial institutions, non-banking financial institutions, and governments. They're all under pressure trying to figure things out. And that's why they're being pushed now from every angle to adopt the new financial system. But it says this: XRP now available for 20 million Japanese users thanks to this integration. It says, as became known thanks to CoinPost, popular cryptocurrency XRP is now available for trading on Mercoin, the crypto platform operated by Mercari, Japan's largest resale marketplace. The listing gives over 20 million monthly active users, according to Emi Yoshikawa, direct access to XRP using existing balances, points, or bank transfers, starting from as little as 1 JPY. They're making it easy. This is going to continue to happen globally. You see all of these countries, most of the major regulators, making it very easy to acquire crypto. Why? They know what's coming. First of all, they want to benefit from it, the people at the top. And second of all, yes, retail needs it. You can't be at the top if there's no one to be over. So yeah, they have to feed retail every once in a while. The major frenzy, I believe, you don't have to agree with me, the major frenzy is yet to come where all will feast. Why? Why would that be allowed? A lot of people would disagree with that. Because they needed to be that way to prop up the new financial system. They needed to be a grand opening where everybody's happy, shouting. They're having a great old time. This is not the first time this has happened. Anytime you see it, you hear a lot of these legacy system economists talk about, what happened in the past and how good it was. That was another point where they did something similar to this. All right, so that's what I'm expecting to happen. Retail will feast, and then that liquidity will come out of retail if they continue to be consumers, and that will spread out into everything else. And those at the top, the business owners, the banks, the governments and stuff, will have a field day with taking that liquidity into themselves. It's a self-feeding system. Am I wrong? And so I think that's what they're setting up. Hence why, you've seen countless millionaires be made. This bull run, the bull run before this. How much more is to come if the totality of the potential within this explosiveness that everyone's predicting is there? I believe is there. If that's actuated upon, it's going to be a bigger explosion and more wealth generated than ever before. So now there's that. Okay, let's move on to this article here. Now, this article, folks, and I probably should have started with this, but I wanted to start with XRP article this time around because I've been starting with a lot of other, they're more obtuse articles that I believe cover the bulk of what the top utility coins embody. So that's why I've been covering these types of articles. But this one here is the most potent, in my opinion. This article is titled, "The Real-Time Rush Financial Institutions Face Racing to Keep Up with Instant Payments Innovation." One after another, day after day, we're hearing more information that inclines us, or not inclines us, but is informing us that there is a rush, a race toward the technology, just like I've been saying. So we're going to scroll down, and this article begins here. It says, small banks, big barriers. This is potent, folks. Spread this information around. Listen to this. Many smaller financial institutions remain locked up in planning mode. We've heard this before. They're confirming it. That means nothing's changed. They're locked up in planning mode when it comes to instant payments. They haven't even gotten started yet. It says, it continues. Unclear business models and security concerns hold up adoption as real-time payments become table stakes. Look how they're talking about this, table stakes. Wait, then I'm going to give you some numbers on this. Just wait. It says here, some FIs hesitate to scale instant payments, citing fraud as a top concern, especially as real-time rails continue to expand. That's interesting, isn't it? Considering that all the regulators and all of the string pullers are forcing them, they're threatening them at this point to adopt instant payments. But the ones they're recommending, which they're talking about here, because clearly DLT is not the major one that's out yet because we're just being unleashed. So they're clearly not talking about us. But what have they been referencing in these previous articles? RTP, FedNow. But they're saying that fraud is a top concern. Really? Interesting, isn't it? So if they're not going to adopt those, once again, we end up at this conclusion, which is a good thing. You go to this doctor, they say you have a bad knee. You go to that doctor, say you have a bad knee, and that one says you have a bad knee. Guess what? You have a bad knee. Right? We want them to, if they're drawing the same conclusion, it's not what we want. That's the reality. If they're drawing the same conclusions, that means that we're on the right track. We're that much closer to what we could call the truth. Now, so they're talking about the legacy system, not us. We're just being unleashed. Wait until people see the run that is going to be possible, if it happens the way that I foresee it happening, for DLT technologies, the top utility coins. They should have a feeding frenzy. It says here, however, recent data from, they reference Volante Tech. Very interesting. Volante Tech technology suggests these fears may be overstated. I'm glad they said that. I feel like it's an excuse. They do not want those other offerings. They don't want it. Now, let's continue on here. It says many institutions report no impact at all, signaling that existing controls are proving effective. It says of the FIs experiencing fraud related to instant payments, only 3% reported significant fraud impacts. Yeah, so if that's the case, then what they're doing is making an excuse. Why? Why are they making an excuse? An excuse that serves what purpose? To delay the adoption of what? What would they be delaying? They would be delaying the adoption of these so-called instant payment systems of the legacy offerings. But if they're delaying that, but they know that they'll be left behind, then what could they be waiting on? The only logical conclusion, I believe, would be DLT systems. That is it. That's the alternative that sets them free, gives them transparency, gives them as much security as they desire. Well, or rather as much security as they can pay for. You want a double encrypted, quadruple encrypted, or beyond that, something like that, quantum proof, you're going to have to pay extra, I suppose. That's how businesses typically work. But it would be in their hands, as opposed to if they go with the legacy system offerings, they know it would not be in their hands. They would be subject to the same thing that they've always experienced, which does not allow them to grow. Now, here's the important part about that. So small banks, how did they phrase this? Many smaller institutions find themselves locked in planning mode, which means they haven't gotten on with instant payments, right? Correct? So now the question that I would ask is, logically, how many small banks are there? That's when you start getting to the money, that bank money. Wait, let's take a look here. Pretty sure I looked this up. Okay, so I typed into Google.com. I typed in how many small banks are in the U.S. Remember, this is global. We really should look globally, but let's start with the U.S. There's big money in the U.S. 1, 2, I've been talking about how I believe that the bank coin companies, like Ripple as an example, could gobble up a lot of these smaller banks. So now, we already established that most of them haven't adopted instant payments. There's barriers. How many are there? Here we go. This is what Google says. It says there are over 4,000 small banks in the U.S. 4,000. That's a lot of banks, folks. You think we can't scoop up 1,000? How much would 1,000 banks And all of that consistent value, how much impact would that make to XRP's price? We see that Ripple is trying to incorporate XRP into many important things, including Hidden Road. Hidden Road deals with trillions of dollars a year. So if XRP is good enough for that, that's what they claim. We'll see what they do. That's what the articles have said, unless they're wrong. That's what they said. If XRP is good enough for that, it's definitely good for these banks. So if Ripple, or any of these bank coins, if Ripple or Chainlink or Solana, whoever involves themselves with these banks, why wouldn't they utilize XRP in the system? XRPL, Solana, Sol, whatever. And how much impact do you believe that would have on those prices? That's when it gets real. That's when people get fired up. It's not. See, the information is potent to individuals like myself, but when people start to see that price goes up, money talks louder than anything. That's when they start jumping in. They're not believers until they see that money going up. Once the price starts going up, then people start jumping in. Companies start jumping in. But we already read in that article, you see the video yesterday? In that video yesterday, I believe, at the end of the video, folks, if you didn't see the end of the video, just go to that video and just go to the last chapter of that video. They admitted to something. It was unbelievable that we've been speculating upon. We know who's taking over. The big money's taking over. So that would lead to more, large companies, asset managers possibly getting involved that weren't involved before. And then that price is going to go up even more dramatically. There's so many big catalysts here. It's unbelievable. But it says there are over 4,000 small banks in the U.S. alone. How many globally? We'll cover that later. Or you could just look it up for yourself. You could do that. It says with the exact number varying slightly depending on the source and definition of, quote, small bank, unquote. According to the FDIC, small banks are defined as having assets less than $1.609 billion. These small banks, also known as community banks, play a significant role in the U.S. banking system and economy. Now, what we're looking for here, in my humble opinion, is continuity. There's a continuity of flow, of value, of utilization of systems every day. This is what, and that's what it's going to become. It may not be that way now, to take off the weekends, but they've already stated that's not what they want. They want systems, and the BIS also stated this. They want a system that's 365 days a year, 7 days a week, is constantly running. They want that capability, and they want it to move at lightning speeds, right? Which is going to be another factor into the future. As once again, I said, quantum computing is going to come in handy. It is. There's just too many advancements. Anybody who's keeping up with quantum, advancements knows there's too many advancements that are now very handy in moving information faster than anyone could have ever thought. That there's no way they're not going to use that. All right. And I don't think that those things, just looking at how they function, are too complicated. They may make them expensive. I don't know. They probably will make them expensive, but they're not too complicated for the average company to employ. They're not. You take some containment units, some vacuum / containment units, a little bit of slightly rare magnetic material. I mean, you'd be surprised. So now, anyway, 4,000 folks. All right. So that's a lot of capital that's waiting on what? They haven't adopted the technology. Why? Like, not all of them, but many of them, of course, that's what they're saying here. So that's huge information. That means that that's value on the table for the taking. Bank money, right? So now let's move on here. Another catalyst. This article is titled, Fed Survey Says Pervasive Uncertainty Hampers Companies' Hiring and Growth. Now, there's another way that DLT comes in handy. Number one, companies want to make more capital. They can save capital with DLT technologies. One, they can be more efficient. You know how many, we've read it in articles. I know you've seen it. How many times have they overpaid someone? People even make videos on it. Overpaid someone, or they sent too much capital here or there. Even banks. What was the one bank that transferred like a couple $100 million to somebody. They had to go get it back. That happened multiple times. So across the board in businesses, funds are grossly mismanaged. That stops with DLT technology. Smart contracts can ensure that if this amount of payment has to go to this company every week, every 2 weeks, that it does that automatically and it doesn't have to involve majorly the human element. Human element can just be there just to observe and make sure that everything's going okay. Nothing's going awry. So it doesn't cancel out the human element, but it enhances the human element. So in that way, companies can make a little bit more value. Then with a little bit more value, maybe they can relax a little bit. They can grow more. Well, let me take the relax part out, but I like to think that they can relax a little bit more. But they can grow. Now they can fund more projects. They can expand a little bit more. Maybe they bring in some other elements to the company. They have the capital to do so. You can do that by saving with DLT. They know that. Then hiring. Now you can create new wings of your business and you can hire more. See, all of this is tied in to the new financial system. And then also companies we've already seen this, they'll be purchasing Bitcoin and other things to hold and capitalizing on that. That's another way that they're going to make more capital. Then who knows how they're going to employ special perks for their employees with lending and delegating and staking. All of that comes into play. Those are major catalysts. Then on top of then you start to think to yourself, which one of these Bitcoin companies are they offer affordability. They can deploy quickly. It doesn't take a whole lot of training to be able to utilize them. Then you start to see who the winners are going to be. This is what it says, a little tidbit. It says, perhaps the best or most positive finding in the Federal Reserve's latest qualitative survey of the economy and its prospects boils down to this: economic activity, at least as measured in March, was mixed. In other words, things could have been worse, but across 12 central bank districts, the change from February to March was palpable in terms of sentiment. Uncertainty tied to, a lot of the different geopolitical stuff going on was pervasive. 3 districts saw things as relatively unchanged. Okay. Spending overall was lower. I thought they were going to go into a list. My apologies. That's why I was like this. Spending, I make mistakes. Spending overall was lower, at least for non-automobile purchases, in a demonstration of front loading ahead of the geopolitical things that's going on. Vehicle sales gained ground. Really? That's interesting. Okay. There's so many things that are quite unpredictable here, but here's the thing. We see even governments and facets of governments are getting involved with DLT. Everyone's looking to utilize this particular technology. So when it comes to the flow of liquidity, the new financial system is going to help with that greatly. So now let's go here because I want to get to I'm not sure how long this video is now. I had to stop. So now the video's all chopped up and broken. So I don't know how long the first piece was. But let's go here. I'm going to get to a little bit of Bitcoin news. Oh, okay. Here we go. So this article is titled, very likely, quote unquote, Bitcoin has kicked off uptrend to new all-time high, says crypto trader. Here are his targets. So let's find out what this is about. Oh, so it's coming from, why don't they just say Michael Vanderpop? We all know who Vanderpop is. So this is coming from him. It says, quote, solid upwards trend. Break $87,000 and will test 92,000. What is Bitcoin right now? I could have sworn I saw that it was higher than that earlier in the day. So let's just very quickly, let's go to Coin Market Cap and let's just see how much Bitcoin is right now. Why not? So right now, folks, this is what he was saying earlier. Right now, Bitcoin is $95,328. 95,000. Oh, it changed a little bit. Of course, as always, going up and down. $95,242. On the hour, it's up 0.04%. On the 24 hours, it's up 1.7%. On the 7 days, up 12.54%. All right. That's how Bitcoin is doing right now. Is looking great, is it not? All right. Fun times again. Right. Fun times again. So now let's go back here. If I can find the article. Bear with me one moment, please. All right. So now he says, so let's get past that because it definitely exceeded what he was predicting. Next up, the analyst says that Ethereum Bitcoin pair is showing a bullish divergence on the daily chart. I just want to hear what he's saying about Bitcoin. You want to be honest? I do. Like, okay, where do you believe Bitcoin is going to go? So that's the crux of that. So since that was very lacking in what they were saying in this article, and the gist of that was it has kicked off an uptrend to a new all-time high. Let's go here. Let us go here. So this article, I don't think is going to disappoint. It's titled, let's see what time it is on this video here. This video is saying 16 minutes, but then I got to add it to the other one. So Bitcoin price from $500,000 to $1 million in 2025. I like articles like this. I do. Doesn't mean I agree. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know Bitcoin is going high. I know when it hits 150K, I'm staring at it with a side eye. I'm like this with Bitcoin. Once it hits $150,000, I'm looking like this. That's all. That's what I know. And I'll keep a little bit. Satoshi ally Adam Back predicts Bitcoin to soar to at least $500,000 this year and reveals curious fact about Bitcoin white paper. We're getting a lot of people coming out right now, bullish once again, and speaking about it in a bullish way. It says Adam Back, the chief executive officer of Blockstream, also known as the creator of Hashcash, mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper by mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto, has made an ultra bullish Bitcoin price prediction. Yeah, but we have a lot of people that believe Bitcoin is going to 500K. A lot of these whales or big money individuals believe it's going to 500K or 250K, something like that. I don't think 250 is out of the question. I don't know about it going to 250 this year. I think Bitcoin has some time to run. I do. I think it could go into next year, deep into next year. You want to be honest. If those catalysts remain, we have to watch the catalysts. But it continues. He believes that during the current market cycle, the world's flagship cryptocurrency will reach 6 figures. Back took part in the Milk Road podcast earlier this week. I guess that's where he stated this. Bitcoin to $500,000 minimum. That's what he's saying. Back reckons that Bitcoin trading, even at $100,000, is cheap, expecting it to rocket much higher this year, or in this market cycle anyway. The price prediction he shared with the podcast host is that Bitcoin is likely to reach a minimum of $500,000 and then go on to $1 million per coin is what he's saying. All right. Do you agree with that? How do you feel about that? What I believe, I think all of crypto is going to continue to do fantastic. I think it's going to be really, really fun times ahead, albeit there's going to be volatility. That's just logical. That's just life. But until those major catalysts go away, I think Bitcoin's going to pull crypto up. And then at some point, you're going to see a utility run from the altcoins. I think that's going to be major. I do. Keep watching out for those catalysts and looking into the companies and things going on with the banks and nations. And so, we'll see what happens. And now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.